turned steel, and the weight of the world is all I can feel. There's a distant thunder rolling through my bones, a voice in the storm that calls.
When Marvel announced that an Australian actor named Chris Hemsworth would portray Thor, few people knew what to expect. Thor is one of the most recognisable gods in world mythology, the god of thunder, the protector of Midgard, the wielder of Mjolnir, a warrior whose name has survived for over 1,000 years. Bringing such a legendary figure to life was never going to be easy. Yet over the course of more than a decade, Chris Hemsworth did something remarkable. He didn't simply play Thor. He helped millions of people fall in love with him, not just as a superhero, but as a character. And perhaps in many unexpected ways, his portrayal captures the spirit of the original Norse Thor more closely than many people realise. More than muscles. At first glance, Thor appears simple. He's powerful. He's brave. He fights giants. He commands lightning. It would have been easy to portray him as nothing more than a fearless warrior. Instead, Hemsworth gave Thor something equally important: heart. From the very beginning, his Thor possesses warmth. He laughs. He celebrates. He mourns. He cares deeply for his friends. He protects ordinary people. Behind every battle is someone whose first instinct is not conquest, but protection. That is remarkably faithful to the Thor worshipped throughout Scandinavia. The protector of ordinary people. Unlike Odin, whose wisdom often feels distant and mysterious, Thor was the god most closely connected to everyday life. Farmers prayed to him. Travellers invoked his protection. Families wore Mjolnir pendants for safety. Thor was never simply the strongest god. He was the god people believed stood beside them. Chris Hemsworth captures this beautifully. His Thor does not fight because he enjoys violence. He fights because someone needs protecting. Power becomes responsibility, not privilege. Learning humility. One of the greatest strengths of the Marvel films is that Thor is allowed to fail. In his first film, Thor begins as proud, impulsive, arrogant. He believes strength alone makes someone worthy. Odin strips him of his Mjolnir, not because Thor is weak, but because he lacks wisdom. The famous inscription on the hammer says everything. Whoever holds this hammer, if they be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor. Notice something important. The hammer does not choose the strongest. It chooses the worthy. That is one of the oldest lessons hidden within Thor's mythology. Strength without character is dangerous. By the end of the first film, Thor has learnt sacrifice, compassion, humility. Only then does Mjolnir return. The strength to laugh. One of Chris Hemsworth's greatest contributions to the role was humour. Some initially criticised this direction. Yet there is something deeply Norse about it. The gods of the Eddas are not distant beings sitting silently upon golden thrones. They feast, drink, argue, laugh, make mistakes. Thor himself appears in stories that are surprisingly funny. He dresses as a bride, gets outwitted, loses his temper, travels with Loki on bizarre adventures. Marvel's Thor embraces humanity. He is allowed to be powerful without becoming emotionally unreachable. Humour never weakens him. It reminds us that confidence does not require constant seriousness. Loss shapes the hero. Perhaps the greatest reason Hemsworth's performance endures is because Thor changes. He loses his mother, his father, his brother more than once, his closest friends, his home, his hammer, his eye, half his people. Each loss leaves a mark. By the time we reach Avengers Endgame, Thor is no longer simply the fearless warrior introduced years earlier. He is grieving, broken, lost. For many viewers, this was one of Marvel's bravest decisions. Heroes are rarely shown carrying trauma so openly. Thor's pain feels real. His depression feels human. And perhaps for that reason, his eventual recovery becomes even more meaningful. Worthiness is never finished. One of the most beautiful themes throughout Thor's story is that worthiness is not something achieved once. It is something continually lived. Every challenge asks the same question. Will Thor use his strength for himself or for others? Again and again he chooses others. Sometimes imperfectly, sometimes reluctantly, but he keeps choosing. That persistence is what makes him worthy. Not perfection, growth, Thor and the original myths. Of course, Marvel's Thor differs greatly from the Thor of Norse mythology. The myths are older, harsher, sometimes contradictory. Yet the heart of the character remains surprisingly familiar. Both versions value courage. Both protect humanity. Both stand between order and chaos. Both possess immense physical strength. Yet neither is defined solely by power. They are defined by what they choose to protect. That may be the truest adaptation of all. The hero people needed. Perhaps the greatest achievement of Chris Hemsworth's Thor is not accuracy, it's inspiration. He made kindness look strong, compassion look heroic, humility look admirable, strength look protective rather than oppressive. For many people, Thor became the hero who reminded them that masculinity need not be cruel. A man could be powerful without being heartless. He could cry. He could fail. He could laugh. He could love deeply. He could still be a hero. Final thoughts. Chris Hemsworth did not simply portray the god of thunder. He portrayed a man learning what true strength means. At first, Thor believed strength came from muscles, from battles, from hammers, from victory. Life slowly taught him otherwise. Real strength is protecting those weaker than ourselves. Real strength is admitting when we are wrong. Real strength is carrying grief without allowing it to harden into hatred. Real strength is standing back up after life has brought us to our knees. Perhaps that is why Chris Hemsworth Thor has endured. Because the lightning, the humour, the battles and the spectacle lies something timeless. The ancient Norse people looked to Thor not because he was invincible. They looked to him because he stood between ordinary people and the darkness. Chris Hemsworth captured that spirit. Not by becoming the strongest hero, but by becoming one of the most human. And perhaps that is the greatest compliment any actor portraying a god could ever receive. As always, thanks for watching. Take care and be well. Skull.